Hey, welcome back to Rhino Fishing TV. This is my new boat, the Jackson Coosa FD. Now that I've got 8 or so trips under my belt fishing from this kayak, it's time to do a comprehensive bow to stern review of this thing with you, and I'm going to go through everything that I like and dislike or am concerned with about the boat, as well as all the features and what I think of them. And hopefully, if you're in the market for a new boat, this can help you make a decision about whether you might be interested in the Jackson Coosa FD. So stand by. Okay, first of all, I want to tell you guys, the boat is heavy. So I recommend a strength training program if you're going to be lugging this thing around. It has been a little bit of a struggle for me to get the thing in and out of my truck. I have kind of got it down to a science, though, and I figured out a way to do it with some cinch straps and using the landing gear that I purchased and I had the retailer install for me, but I'll get to that in a minute. But that's what I wanted to tell you, just kind of give you a holistic view of the boat and to let you know that it is heavy. It's about 30 pounds heavier than my last kayak. All right, here we go, starting up front. The drain plug for this kayak is right up here in the tip of the bow. Most kayaks I see have them back there in the stern somewhere, either up on top or on the side. This is probably a pretty good place for it. That way, if you do happen to take that plug out to drain it and forget to put it back in there, you're not going to take on a bunch of water. So I think that's a pretty good place to put that. Next up, I want to talk about the handles, and I'll just talk about all of them in general right here. They're pretty rugged. Not like you see a lot of kayaks that got kind of nylon webbing that they use for their handles, and I don't care for that. I've got a different brand of a kayak that has that kind of handle, and I've already pulled the screw out on one side of it that I had to fix that. These are pretty rugged, and even with that though, I'm still just a little bit concerned when I lift up the weight of the kayak by this one front handle, if that's going to endure over time. But they're pretty good. I wish they were molded in handles, but they're not. They're screwed in, but it still is pretty rigid. One thing while I'm thinking about it, when I got this kayak, just about all the screws on it, no matter where they're located, like in these handles or on these hinges, needed to be tightened. So if you do purchase this kayak, please check that. All the screws need to be tightened, just about anywhere you find one. So just a word of caution there. All right, so now that's going to bring us to the front hatch. And looking at the pictures and the advertisements for this kayak, these hatches looked kind of thin and flimsy to me in the pictures, but they really aren't. I'm really very happy with the way these things are constructed, and I like the latching mechanisms. They're very smooth, and I even like the hatch itself. Let me turn the camera around so you can kind of see what the door looks like. It's very well constructed. It's got a really nice soft rubber seal there, and I don't think it keeping water out is ever going to be a problem. It's a lot more sturdy than what I thought it was going to be before I bought the thing. Also, I think this is a pretty standard feature across many of Jackson Kayak's boats. They've got a paddle keeper on this front hatch, just a place where you can kind of tuck the paddle out of the way should you need to. I don't use my paddle very much because it's a pedal drive kayak, but you can tuck it out of the way there if you find yourself in shallow water and you need to get that out of your way for a few minutes. Let me give you a shot of the inside. It's pretty deep, and I was able to shove, I don't know, 5 casting rods down in there and to transport them last weekend, so that works out pretty well. Anyway, lots of storage in there. And again, I really like the latching mechanisms. They stay in place, they don't slip. All right, moving on aft. I wanted to point out to you one thing here that did not come on my kayak, but I think that they advertise is supposed to be a feature on this one. And that is the 2018 models are supposed to come with a GoPro mount, either here mounted under this screw or this one over here. Mine didn't have that. I don't really care. I never planned on using a GoPro there, but if that's important to you, make sure you get that. All right, that brings us to the flex drive unit. This is the center feature of the Coosa FD kayak, and this is what makes it go. And I'm going to tell you the good, bad, and the ugly with this. Okay, the good, seems to be very rugged, and it's portable. And one thing that I really like about it is that it comes in an upper and a lower unit. The lower unit is permanently installed on the kayak, but the upper unit comes off just like that. And it's very easy to remove and to put back on, and you just got 2 thumb screws to tighten it down in place. Very easy and convenient to take on and off, especially as you're lugging this kayak around and you want to shed some weight to make it a little bit lighter. That thing weighs about 10 pounds. The lower unit, like I said, is permanently installed, and it consists of a handle here which actually deploys the propeller. So right now, with the handle in the down position, make sure you have that in frame. Okay. This handle here is what deploys the propeller, and with it in the down position, the propeller is actually up inside the hull. And let me see if you can see that. Let me zoom in on it for you. Okay. And then to deploy the propeller into the water, it has 2 settings, a shallow setting and a deep setting. The shallow setting, you just bring the handle up halfway, and it has a detent, and it's probably good for depths, you know, as shallow as maybe 6 to 8 inches of water. One thing I would want to tell you about that, though, is that you're not going to be very stealthy if you're running shallow. That propeller makes a lot of noise because half of it is actually out of the water. So there's a lot of splashing and racket going on there, but it does propel the kayak, which is what you're probably trying to do. And then if you put it all the way into the up position, then the propeller is fully deployed into its normal position. And I'm not going to do that here because I'm sitting here over my driveway and I don't want to ding up the propeller. But I really like this mechanism for raising and lowering the propeller. So while I'm still on the drive system, let me zoom you in here on the propeller. Hopefully you can see that. But one of the nice features about this is that if you get this propeller fouled with a bunch of weeds or moss or whatever, you just basically bring it up into the stowed position, pop up this hatch, and you can just clean it out without having to like remove the drive system or anything. You get it clean, you redeploy it, you shut that so that you don't have water splashing onto your feet, and you're good to go. Really, really nice feature. That was a huge selling point for me on buying this kayak, being able to access that propeller system without actually removing the drive system. All right, I'm going to backtrack just a little bit on the drive system because I want to tell you about an issue that I had. About my 3rd time out with this kayak, this left pedal here started getting loose about 2 hours into a fishing trip. And this whole arm right here was loose. And what I ended up discovering was that this bolt right here was backing out. And I didn't have tools out there to fix it. So I was almost stranded out there, ended up having to paddle back to the boat ramp. Well, I engaged the retailer that sold me the boat as well as Jackson Kayak. And at first they recommended that I get some blue thread locker, you know, Loctite, and tighten that thing down really, really hard. And I did that. I've done it a couple of times, but still after a couple hours on the water, the left pedal only will become loose and that bolt will back out. So in further conversations with them, what Jackson ended up doing was shipping me an entire new upper drive unit. And so far so good. I haven't had any problems with it. If you buy this kayak and you do the installation of these pedal arms yourself, you'll get a piece of paper in there that basically says to tighten these bolts as hard as you physically can. And when you think you've got them as tight as you can, tighten them some more. And that's what I've done with this. And I've got my fingers crossed that I don't have that issue anymore. But that's really my biggest concern about this kayak so far, but today I didn't have any problems with it. Oh, and kudos to both Delaware Paddle Sports and Jackson Kayak for just top-notch customer service. I spent a lot of money on this kayak, and I really feel like they want me to be happy with it. So thanks a lot, Brian at Delaware Paddle Sports, and also thank you, Jackson Kayak, for making this right for me. You know, one thing that I forgot to mention was that this track that the flex drive connects to, that secures it into place, is basically a standard kayak rack, or excuse me, track system, and you can actually put any sort of track mounted hardware or whatever in here that you want, with the 6 or 7 inches that you have on either side of the drive there, just so you know. All right, while we're up here in this area, I'm going to show you what I've done with my fish finder. I use a Lowrance Elite 4 HDI, and this boat comes with a scupper that's designed to receive a transducer so that it's like up into the hull. And I'll show you in a second. I'll turn the kayak up on its side so you can kind of see how the sonar transducer is mounted. But I went on to Amazon and I bought a Lowrance kit that's designed for you to scupper mount your transducer, and it's worked out really, really nicely. And the cable that goes with the transducer, you can see where I just kind of taken it and snaked it in and out underneath that track system that the flex drive connects to. There you can see it. Anyway, it's pretty secure, tucked out of the way, and I've been pretty happy with it so far. It makes it really, really convenient for me to make sure I take my fish finder with me. In my old kayak, it was kind of a hassle to lug the battery and get the thing mounted and put the transducer over the side, and I rarely took it out with me. Now I take it every time just because it's already, kind of there. Hey, also up in the bow on either side of the front hatch are 2 little tubes that are designed for you to stick your rod tips in there and kind of get them out of the way in case you're like up close to the bank or something and you don't want them getting all tangled up in the tree branches. It does put a little bit of bend on your rod, but not so much that that you're going to break it. I don't use them very much because I'm kind of a little paranoid about them dinging up my line guides, but they're there, and I do think it's a nice feature, and I have used them a few times, just not very often. All right, let's talk about the track system. There are a lot of tracks for gear on this kayak. There's one there, there's one there, and there's 2 more that kind of mirror those 2 on the other side. I already told you that the flex drive uses a system that's basically a standard track system for a kayak. And also the seat actually slides. You can zoom in on it. You can see that right there on a track system that's the same system. So you could even, put something down there if you needed to, right there in front of your seat. Very convenient. In addition to those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there's another one back here. It's right behind the seat, and you can't see it right now because I covered mine up with the Boondocks landing gear system. So I've lost that track system that's behind the seat. However, on top of the landing gear, there's actually, let's see if I can show you. Zoom in on that. On top of the landing gear, there's actually, a few inches of space that are designed for you to mount things on as well. So I didn't lose it all, but I probably wouldn't have used that system back there anyway. And then, of course, you got 2 more tracks back here to help you secure all your stuff in your gear well. All right, coming back up here. All right, let's talk about the seat. This seat was a huge upgrade for me over my other kayak, which just had a seat that sat in the bottom of the kayak that wasn't adjustable. And this one is. It's got 2 positions, high and low. And you simply got 2 pins that hold it into place. If you want to put it in the low position, for paddling, you just drop it in there and pin it into place. but I prefer to have it up high because I'm pedaling most of the time. You just pop it in there, pin it, and you're good to go. One thing that comes with this kayak is this dry bag here. Really nice feature. I've got some tools and stuff in there, and you can, use it to put your phone or whatever you need to keep items dry. Very, very nice. Jackson actually threw in a lot of cool stuff with this kayak, and I'll try to mention all of it as I go through this. But anyway, very nice seat. Can spend hours in that thing, very comfortable. Right, over here on the other side of the kayak, I wanted to show you a couple of other things that Jackson throws in. They throw in a rod holder, I believe it's a ram, and they also throw in the 1.5 inch ball that this rod holder mounts onto, which is nice. They also send you a nice insulated Orion cup, along with a Jackson cup holder. Very nice. I like this cup holder a lot. I actually ordered a second one, and I just kind of used it on the other side as a catch-all to throw baits and lures and things like that in to get them out of my way. All right, I'm going to pull the seat back out to show you this next item. All right, this is a sliding tray that is new to the Coosa FD. This tray is a really convenient place to store pliers and scissors and things like that. The only problem that I have with it is that when you pull it forward, and if you have this hatch closed, it might block it. So if you do run up shallow, it's going to be in the way of opening that door. Just something to be aware of. Overall, it's a little on the flimsy side, so I'm kind of concerned how it's going to wear over time. But I do like having it. And also, I wanted to show you, this is a cell block that I use to house the battery for my fish finder. And I rail mounted it on my old kayak, but this is a really, really convenient place to put it. In this kayak, it's under my seat and out of the way, and I don't have to worry about it. You basically got your standard little bungee system here for a paddle keeper. And just, put your paddle there and stretch it over there, just like you ordinarily would. And also, while I'm here, let's go over the rudder controls. Let me zoom in on it. You've got rudder controls on either side of the seat, so you can steer with either your left or your right hand or both while you're pedaling. And pretty simple. If you're using your left hand and you want to go left, you push the rudder control forward. If you want to go right, you pull it aft. And just the opposite on the other side. If you want to go right, you push the right rudder control forward. If you want to go left, the right rudder control goes aft. A little comment on the steering while I'm here. It's very sensitive, and in my first couple of outings with it, I found myself over controlling, with just the nose kind of hunting for the course that I wanted to settle out on. I've gotten used to it over time, so I'm much better at steering it now, but it is very sensitive, and I would say that it probably doesn't track real well. You're supposed to be able to lock these things down in these notches and have it track straight, but it never does for me. It moves off to the right. Just something to note. All right, continuing aft, here's the gear well. It's nice and big and roomy. I've just got a standard size kayak crate back here, but it's certainly big enough to put a black pack or some of those bigger gear crates in there. So no problems there. Nice big hefty bungees back here that crisscross back and forth across the track system to secure everything down. Also, while we're here, this doesn't come with the kayak, but you can see my Boondocks landing gear. With a kayak this heavy, and I'll go out on a limb and say that just about any of the pedal kayaks, whether they're Hobies or Jacksons or Vibes or any of those other ones, they're going to be heavy, much heavier than a paddle kayak, and you're going to need some sort of wheel system to get that thing loaded and unloaded and to your launch point. I chose to go with the Boondocks landing gear. Delaware Paddle Sports installed it for me, and It is a little cumbersome to use, but I don't know how I would handle the kayak without them. All right, almost to the end here, folks. Continuing to move aft. Here's the rear hatch. Very similar in size to the front hatch. Get that out of the way. The opening itself is much smaller than the front, but it has the same sort of features, the same kind of rugged top hatch, nice rubberized seals to keep it watertight. But one thing that is important about this back hatch is this is where you access all the rudder mechanism. And as you can see, the Jackson method doesn't use cables, it uses these push rods. I kind of like that. If something were to break though, I would have to probably do some research on how you would replace those and run new rods in there. But one thing I did want to show you here, how easy the rudder is to remove. It's just held in place by this lock pin right here, and you can just pull it out of there and the rudder drops out. And there it is. It's pretty rugged, but if you're at all worried about getting it all scraped up, and mine is kind of getting scraped up, when you launch, especially if you're tilting it down out of the back of a pickup truck or something like that, you can always remove it and just pop it right back into place once you get to your launch point. Very, very, very simple to do. Good to go. Also, Jackson throws in a nice red safety flag, just in case you're loading this thing in the back of a pickup truck like I am. And I used a bungee, I don't know what you call those things, tarp bungee, and wrapped it around the back handle here. And I got the flag attached to that, and when I'm not using it, like on the water, I just toss it back in here, and I close the hatch down on it to keep it out of the way. Yeah, it's kind of sitting on top of the rudder mechanism, but it's not causing any problems. Oh yeah, one last thing. You see these 4 screws here? This kayak is power pole ready, so if you wanted to install a kayak power pole, it's already got the holes pre-drilled for it, which is really nice and convenient. But if you don't have the power pole, you got a nice molded in handle back here, which I like. Final thoughts on the Jackson Coosa FD. I'm glad I bought the kayak. It is a beast though. It's heavy. You need to be strong. A feeble-bodied person isn't going to be able to handle it very well. So eat your Wheaties and start yourself a strength training program. It is a dream to fish from. I have no regrets about buying it at all. I'm glad I have it. You're able to cover so much more water with a pedal drive versus a paddle drive. Lots of storage. I can take so much more stuff with me than I could before. So much more convenient for me to take my fish finder, so I take it on every trip now. Very, very happy with that. So would I recommend the Jackson Coosa FD? Absolutely. If it's within your budget, it's a great kayak, and I look forward to getting a lot of years out of it. As long as that flex drive system is reliable for me, I'll be a happy camper. Thanks for watching. Hopefully this review helps you if you're in the market for a pedal drive kayak, and you might want to consider the Coosa FD. See you later.